In that tense moment aboard the crowded flight, when the flight attendant finally grasped the full extent of her outrageous demand, her demeanor shifted in an instant from polite patience to unyielding resolve. I was heading back after a grueling week on the job, the sort that leaves your mind buzzing like a hive of angry bees, even in moments of supposed quiet. I'd deliberately chosen the window seat, not out of some sense of entitlement, but because it offered the one spot where I could lean my weary head against the cool pane without constant interruptions from passing elbows or shuffling feet. My backpack was stowed neatly beneath the seat in front, headphones at the ready, and I was savoring that quiet inner triumph when you glanced around and see your row still blissfully empty, promising a rare slice of peace amid the chaos of travel. But then came that piercing interruption. "Excuse me." I turned to find her planted firmly in the aisle, obstructing the flow like an unmovable barrier. She appeared to be in her mid-40s with impeccably coiffed hair that screamed deliberate effort. Oversized sunglasses perched atop her head, despite the dim cabin lighting, and a high-end purse dangling from her arm as if it were a symbol of her unassailable status. Trailing behind her was a subdued man, his expression etched with exhaustion, clutching 2 steaming coffees while his gaze remained fixed on the worn carpet below, as though wishing the floor might swallow him whole. She didn't bother checking the overhead indicators or seat labels. Instead, her eyes locked onto mine with unwavering certainty. "That's my seat," she declared flatly. I double-checked my boarding pass instinctively, though I knew it by heart. "Row 18, seat ether window. All mine." "I believe you might be in the incorrect row," I replied evenly, striving to keep any edge from creeping into my tone. Her mouth formed a thin line of irritation. "No, I'm not mistaken. I always choose the window." Those words revealed her true nature in a flash, not a claim backed by a ticket or reservation, but a bold assertion of personal habit, as if her preferences alone dictated reality. I gestured toward the illuminated row markers above. "What does your boarding pass indicate?" She rummaged through her designer bag with exaggerated flair, as if putting on a show for the surrounding passengers who were beginning to steal glances. Our way, finally, she extracted the pass and fluttered it near my face, not offering it for inspection but wielding it like a token of victory. 18C, she announced audibly, as though the airline itself had erred in its assignments. "Aisle seat." I glanced across to the empty spot opposite. "That's over there, the aisle." Her features contorted into a mask of theatrical dismay, one hand fluttering to her chest in mock distress. "I simply cannot sit in the aisle." I held her gaze, puzzled. "Why not?" And then she unleashed her supposed trump card, her voice rising, to carry through the cabin like a deliberate echo. "It's a medical issue." She emphasized the words, ensuring they reached the elderly pair in the seats ahead, who pivoted subtly to observe, and the passenger behind me, who raised his head in curiosity. The volume drew invisible threads of judgment from strangers, positioning me perilously close to becoming the antagonist in their retold tales of airborne drama. For a heartbeat, I was at a loss for words. "All right, but this remains my assigned seat." Her eyes sharpened like daggers. "Are you truly going to challenge someone dealing with a legitimate health problem?" There it lay, the cunning snare. Deny it, and I'd appear callous. Concede, and she'd claim her prize. Yet beneath it all, a faint smirk tugged at her lips, as if she anticipated my every move in this scripted confrontation. I drew in a steadying breath. "I'm not challenging you, I am just pointing out that I selected and paid for this specific spot." She inched forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, as though granting me a merciful escape. "Let me clarify this for you, to spare you further humiliation." She hesitated, surveying the nearby faces to draw them in. "I suffer from panic attacks. Without a view of the outside world, my breathing constricts. It's genuinely hazardous." The man lingering behind her fidgeted uncomfortably, still mute, his posture screaming a desire to vanish from the unfolding scene. I held her stare, grappling with the absurdity. If her condition was so dire, why hadn't she coordinated with the airline during booking rather than commandeering my space now? Maintaining civility essential in the confined quarters of an aircraft, I responded gently. "I'm truly sorry you're facing that, but if it's a medical necessity, perhaps you should consult with a flight attendant." That suggestion ignited her displeasure like a spark to dry tinder. Her features hardened, and she retorted sharply, "I'm addressing you at this very moment. Don't complicate things unnecessarily." Then, in a move that sent a chill through my core, she simply claimed the territory, sliding into the window seat without invitation, arranging her bag on her lap with casual entitlement, and peering up at me with a triumphant gleam as if I were the intruder in her domain. For an instant, I stood paralyzed, a surreal violation washing over me, witnessing another person seize what was rightfully yours with brazen assurance, while fellow travelers averted their eyes in feigned disinterest. My mind raced through calculations: escalate the conflict, demand intervention. Was the hassle justified? She gestured patronizingly toward the adjacent middle seat. "Simply take that one, it's practically identical." The middle seat, the bane of every flyer's existence, squeezed between strangers, devoid of armrests or escape. I eyed her, then the dreaded spot, then back to her unyielding form. No. Her brows arched in feigned astonishment. Pardon me. No, I affirmed, my resolve strengthening. I'm occupying my rightful seat. Her volume escalated at once. Incredible. So you'd endanger my well-being rather than shift a single position. Now, more heads swiveled our way. A lady across the aisle cast a wary glance, teetering on the edge of involvement, yet holding back. The elderly duo ahead exchanged hushed words. I sensed her thriving on the spotlight, drawing energy from the collective gaze. Composing myself, I stated firmly yet quietly, "Please vacate my seat." She reclined defiantly, arms folded across her chest. "Force me to." At that precise juncture, I spotted the flight attendant approaching along the aisle. Conducting her routine pre-departure sweep, she registered the impasse, the palpable strain, the growing ripple of awareness among passengers. And our antagonist, sensing her cue like a seasoned actor, adopted a quavering, vulnerable tempo. "Thank heavens," she proclaimed emphatically. "I have a serious medical condition, and this gentleman is denying me assistance." The attendant halted beside our row, surveying the scene from her to me, then down to the etched seat. She appeared not bewildered, but world-weary, as if this scenario replayed in her shifts with monotonous regularity. "What's the problem here?" she inquired, her composure a model of professionalism. With a heavy, performative sigh, the woman explained, "I require the window for health reasons. I can't tolerate the aisle. It triggers intense panic attacks." He refuses to budge. The attendant remained impassive, extending her palm. "May I review your boarding pass?" The woman beamed victoriously, presenting it with a dramatic flourish. The attendant examined it briefly before returning her gaze with an expression devoid of warmth. "Ma'am, your assignment is 1-8C the aisle." The woman's grin faltered slightly. "Yes. However," the attendant interjected smoothly, "and this individual says 1-8A, the window." The woman parted her lips to protest, but the attendant lifted a hand, subtly a gesture of quiet authority, not abrasive yet conclusive. "Medical accommodations must be coordinated with gate personnel prior to boarding. You cannot commandeer another traveler's designated spot." The woman's facade began to fracture, her features twisting in disbelief. But I informed him of my condition. "Are you implying the airline disregards health concerns?" The attendant's gaze held steady, unflinching. "I'm stating that you must relocate to your proper seat immediately." That final word struck with the force of a verdict, yet the woman remained seated. Instead, she pivoted her tactic in a way that made my fists clench involuntarily. Pointing accusingly at me, she insisted, "Then let him switch. He's young and fit, he'll manage. I'm the one afflicted." The attendant assessed me briefly, gauging whether I might erupt into disruption. Then, redirecting to the woman, her tone deep and serene yet laced with implicit warning. "Ma'am, non-compliance will result in your removal from this aircraft." A hush enveloped the row, thick and expectant. Even her silent partner lifted his gaze, surprise etching his features as if astonished by her audacity's depth. The woman emitted a brief, artificial chuckle. "Removed over a health matter, but outright bias." The attendant eschewed debate, nodding curtly as if concluding a chapter. "Remain seated," she instructed, retreating into the aisle and retrieving her intercom handset. In that pivotal instant, the woman's assured mask splintered ever so slightly, hinting that her usual script might unravel this time. As the flight attendant lifted the receiver, the woman's forced laughter dissolved into tense silence. Her realization dawning like a slow eclipse sheet overplayed her hand, and the familiar ploy was faltering under scrutiny. Her grip on the armrest whitened, and she darted glances toward the aisle, silently pleading for an ally to emerge from the crowd. None materialized. The attendant murmured into the device, her words sufficient and detached, not pleading. But, in Latin, she replaced the handset and pivoted back, clasping her hands with finality, as if sealing an unspoken decree. "Ma'am," she stated firmly, "rise and proceed to 1-8C. This is your ultimate directive." The woman expelled a harsh breath through flared nostrils. "This is absurd." I disclosed my anxiety. "If I sit there, a full-blown panic could strike mid-flight. Do you truly want to bear responsibility for that?" The attendant stood unmoved. "Such requirements demand pre-boarding arrangements. You accepted this flight aware of your placement." Desperately, the woman canvassed the nearby passengers once more, hunting for a spark of empathy. Her gaze settled on the elderly lady opposite. "You get it, don't you?" she implored, her voice trembling artfully on the edge. "You seem like a nurturing soul. Would you compel someone to endure needless pain?" The older woman paused, then shook her head with gentle resolve. "Dear, that gentleman reserved his seat fairly." That quiet rebuke struck deeper than any official reprimand, leaving the woman visibly reeling. At last her subdued companion broke his silence, his tone hushed and laced with mortification. "Karen, please, just relocate. She whipped toward him, eyes flashing. "Don't you dare begin now. You know the aisle triggers me." He averted his eyes, swallowing hard, as if this battle had echoed through countless prior encounters. The attendant, "It's advanced diffraction, ma'am. Failure to adhere will necessitate involving the captain, potentially postponing our departure." That notion of delay transformed the atmosphere like a gathering storm. The cabin's passive observers suddenly stirred with vested interest. A voice from behind grumbled, "This is ridiculous." Another traveler ahead exhaled dramatically, consulting his timepiece. The woman detected the tide turning against her, frame tensing as support evaporated. "Now I'm being coerced." She amplified her voice, harassed simply for possessing a medical affliction. The attendant countered serenely. "No harassment is occurring. You're defying flight crew directives." Defiant, the woman sank deeper into the window seat, arms barricaded across her torso like a rebellious youth testing boundaries. I refused to budge. There hung the ultimatum, bold and unyielding. The attendant inclined her head once. Well, she strode forward along the aisle, measured, composed, irrevocable. The void she left pulsed with heavier tension than any outburst could muster. The woman fidgeted restlessly, repositioning her belongings, adjusting her shades, then fixing me with a venomous glare. "Satisfied with yourself?" she muttered lowly. "You could have prevented this entire ordeal." I held my composure. "And you could have claimed your own spot." Her lip twisted in disdain. "Individuals like you are utterly oblivious." Before a retort formed, reinforcements appeared. An elder attendant, radiating seniority, flanked by the unmistakable figure of the captain. That's when her bravado truly began to erode. The captain halted at our row, his stature commanding and face impassive. "Ma'am, I've been apprised of a seating dispute." She sat bolt upright, modulating her voice to one of contrived civility. "Indeed, Captain, I have a health condition. I've outlined it clearly. The window is essential for me." He inspected her pass, cross-referencing the labels. "Your designated position is the aisle. Correct, and this passenger holds the window legitimately. You've been repeatedly urged to comply." Her laughter rang hollow, now fragile. "So you're genuinely prepared to eject me over something so trivial?" His response was swift, unyielding. "Should you persist in non-compliance?" "Yes." Her eyes bulged in shock. "That's outrageous." "No, it's standard procedure." For a fleeting instant she seemed on the verge of yielding, of finally conceding. Then, in a surprising pivot, she retrieved her phone. "I'm documenting this," she declared boldly. "So the world sees my mistreatment?" A wave of exasperated sighs swept the cabin. The captain remained stoic. "Record as you please, you must still relinquish the seat." She aimed the device squarely at me. This individual denied aid to a woman in medical distress. Let that sink in. My muscles tensed, but the captain interposed subtly. "Ma'am, deactivate the recording and rise immediately." Her grip trembled faintly, betraying her facade. "This constitutes discrimination," she reiterated, though the accusation rang emptier. The captain gestured toward the open aisle. "Final opportunity." Her companion erupted at last. "Karen Stanner." All eyes converged. His cheeks flushed crimson. Exhaustion cracking his voice. "I'm exhausted by this routine, every trip, every outing, every occasion. Just comply." She gaped at him, betrayal etching her features. Shock lingered briefly before fury reclaimed her. "All right," she snarled. "But mark my words, this isn't concluded." She rose brusquely, jostling the seat ahead, yanking her bag, and storming into the aisle. The attendant escorted her promptly to her proper place, vigilant as if anticipating flight. As she brushed past, she bent near and murmured venomously, "You've earned yourself an adversary." I observed her wedge into the aisle seat, seething with crossed arms and jittering leg. The captain surveyed the cabin. "We appreciate your understanding, folks." As he departed, a collective sigh rippled through the air. At last, I claimed. My window perch, pulse still thundering. My fingers quivered not from terror, but the lingering surge of indignation after such an intrusion. Yet an unease gnawed at me, for she didn't appear vanquished. From her vantage, she observed me with a lingering grin. That enigmatic smile persisted as the engine strummed to life, not the chagrin of defeat, but the serene assurance of one plotting their next move. I attempted to dismiss it, gazing outward at the tarmac where ground staff scurried like distant figures in a miniature world, yet her piercing stare lingered, a persistent itch I couldn't scratch. 10 minutes ticked by, then 20. Just as I dared hope the saga had concluded, she inclined toward the attendant during final inspections, murmuring inaudibly. I noted the attendant's hesitation, her posture stiffening, followed by a single nod before she proceeded forward. My gut twisted in foreboding. Moments later, that same attendant reappeared, bearing a compact medical kit. The woman's grin broadened triumphantly. "Thank goodness," she exclaimed for all to hear. "I warned you I wasn't well." Attention reignited across the rows. The attendant crouched beside her. Describe your symptoms, please. With theatrical flair, the woman touched her forehead. Dizziness, pressure in my chest, labored breathing, overwhelming anxiety. She shot me a sidelong look. Intense anxiety. The cabin fell into an awkward stillness. Breaths held as if to avoid exacerbating the drama. The attendant inclined her head. Do you possess documentation verifying a condition necessitating particular seating? The woman snorted derisively. I don't tote my health files like some suspect. Unperturbed, the attendant pressed on. Any medications consumed today? None, came the swift reply. I'm not one for artificial substances. Eyebrows arched subtly around us. Nonetheless, the attendant unpacked the kit. Given reports of chest constriction and respiratory issues, we might need to postpone takeoff and summon paramedics. The prospect of delay hit like a thunderclap. The woman's smile wavered. Postpone? Absolutely not, that's unwarranted. The attendant met her eyes. A potential emergency demands protocol adherence. Spectators now observed unabashedly. The fellow behind whispered incredulously, This can't be real. The woman squirmed. It's merely strexidal subside. The attendant deliberated. Fine, then stay composed in your seat. Should it escalate, we'll head back to the gate. The woman gulped visibly. Her partner murmured urgently, and her eye caught no specifics, but her face morphed from smugness to irritation in a flash. No, she hissed in response. They wouldn't dare, but doubt crept in. She knew the possibility loomed. The attendant rose. I'll brief the captain on a possible passenger in distress. The woman jolted. Hold on. The attendant waited, forcing a grin that fell flat. The woman composed herself. Actually, I'm improving already. The attendant scrutinized her. In what way? The woman's respiration steadied miraculously, her stance erect. The episode's fading joy just required a moment to settle. Suppressed chuckles echoed faintly. One passenger applauded briefly before halting under collective stares. The attendant secured the kit, pleased to learn that. Signal if it recurs. As she withdrew, clarity struck. The window wasn't her genuine need, was a tool for manipulation. For no sooner had the attendant departed than the woman lounged back, at ease, confiding to her partner. See? I knew they wouldn't follow through. With removal, he offered no reply, merely gazing forward with taut jaw. That exchange lingered in my thoughts. Thus, when the seatbelt light dimmed post-liftoff and the hum of crews enveloped us, I rose for the lavatory. Passing a row, her voice drifted casually. Next occasion, she told him. Secure the eyelet heightens a leverage on whoever's nearby. I halted. Involuntarily she detected it, our eyes locking. For once, no pretense veiled her, no feigned frailty or distress, just raw annoyance at exposure. You overheard, didn't you? She stated tonelessly. I remained silent. She shrugged, indifferently. Not my problem if folks fold so readily. That revelation twisted everything, the unmasked truth she'd inadvertently voiced. Her scheme hinged not on authentic anxiety, medical imperatives or aviation fears, but on domination. She'd mastered exploiting proclaimed vulnerability to compel others' concessions, banking on societal aversion to seeming unkind. And today, that gambit had crumbled. Returning to my vantage, I peered into the drifting clouds, a peculiar calm washing over me, not rage or triumph, but profound solace. For this time, a bully encountered unyielding boundaries. Upon touchstone, she bolted upright, eager to flee as if erasing the episode. Yet the attendant intercepted softly. Ma'am, a gentle note, for future medical seating requests, handle them pre-boarding. Her expression soured, of course. As she departed, her partner dawdled. He caught my eye momentarily and silently mouthed, Sorry. I acknowledged with a nod. Stepping into the bustling terminal, a deeper insight crystallized. Her defeat stemmed not solely from my stance, but from a collective resolve that refused to yield. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Every single subscription motivates me to bring you even more exciting and dramatic HOA stories. And don't forget to tap the bell icon so you never miss a new upload. I'll see you in the next story where justice gets even more satisfying.